Hi, I'm Karen Brownsberger, Chief Negotiator for the United Faculty of Florida at USF. As you may know, we have been negotiating a new contract for over a year now. One of the points of contentions are faculty salary increases. USF has consistently been offering us 2% for each of the next 3 years, which brings it up to a total of 6.1%. Whereas the United Faculty of Florida has been asking for 5% for each of the next 3 years, bringing it to 15.76% in those 3 years total. USF can afford it. We have deserved it. And I'm going to start comparing with a comparison of faculty wages at USF versus other AAU institutions. What is so nice about it is that USF actually accumulated the data and made it freely available on the website. And here is the website. Let's start with instructor average salaries. So if you scroll down, the graph here is USF versus other public AAUs. We're talking about average salary per academic year. USF is the dark green line. The average at other AAU public institutions is light green. The 25th percentile is beige and the 75th percentile is gray. So when we look at average salaries for instructors, our instructors in comparison to others at public AAUs are not doing bad. The average is 70,000 per academic year versus at AAU public universities of about $72,000. Please keep in mind that we're talking about averages here. We do realize that we have huge range of salaries at USF at the instructor level. I know plenty of instructors who make about $50,000 per academic year, but then we have others like in the College of Business who make significantly more. That is why in the social sciences, when we talk about salaries and salary comparisons, we usually use the median and not the mean. But we're going to be using what is available to us here because it still helps us make the point. So when you scroll down a little bit, you see a comparison of USF and State University System of Florida institution. That is kind of a mixed bag depending on what you look at. This is USF and Florida Research Institution, so we're lower. But if you look at all of them within the state university system, we are higher. So it really depends on what you look at. When we scroll down, we see the comparisons of USF and national peer and aspirational peer institutions. So instructors are doing comparatively well with our national peers, but of course are below in their salaries with the aspirational peers. The performance snapshot details gives a different type of visual. So here again, when you just look at USF and public AAU comparisons, instructors seem to be in the middle of the pack. Okay, so let's take a look at assistant professor average salaries. So here again, we see the USF versus public AAU average salaries. And here we see a slightly different story. USF is about $97,000 per academic year for assistant professors, and that is about $10,000 lower than the public AAU average. And what's also concerning is that here we are below the 25th percentile. And we think that USF can do better than that. When we scroll down, we see the comparison between USF and the other institutions within the State University System of Florida. And here again, when we're comparing research, we are kind of on par. And a lot of these universities within the system are not research universities, they're not AAU. So we are making more money than those who work for other SUS. And here again, comparison USF, a national peer and aspirational peer institution. And that pretty much brings home that in comparison to the aspirational peer institutions, we're doing fairly poorly. If you click on the performance snapshot details, you will see that we're not looking very good anymore. So we are basically moving into the bottom for the assistant professor average salaries. The associate professor average salaries in comparison to public AAU mean salaries shows that the gap is even wider. We're talking about almost $20,000 here. So we are making about $20,000 less than other public AAU on average per academic year. And here again, we are in the lowest 25th percentile. And that is really worrisome. Here again, the snapshots comparing USF and Florida research and USF to the rest of the SUS. And down here really shows that USF and national peers at the associate professor level are doing poorly, and even worse with the aspirational peers. When you click on the performance snapshot detail, you are seeing that, yes, we are even lower than before. So really at the bottom. And it gets even worse when you look at full professor average salaries. Because when you look at the first graph, you see that the average at USF for full professors is 144,000. At other public AAUs, it is 181,000. And yes, we are again in the lowest 25th percentile. So here again, just a short look how we're doing in comparison to other universities in Florida. And then again, we are not doing well in comparison to our national peers, and even worse to our aspirational peer institutions. When you click on the performance snapshot details, you see that we are really at the bottom, and we need to change that. So getting back to the presentation and looking at other things, in comparison to the AAU, we are severely underpaid. And like I said, we're working very hard on changing that. Take that in combination with a fairly high inflation rate that is around 3.2%. And this number comes from the survey of professional forecasters, which we generally use. And then Channel 8 News recently reported on a study that showed that Tampa Bay prices see highest spikes in continental US. So what the study did, it looked at price hikes in major metropolitan areas in the United States, and it showed clearly that we have experienced the highest spike. Groceries in general increased by 4.3%, eggs, meat, poultry, and fish by 7.8%, fruits and vegetables 0.2% only, cereal and bakery products by 5.3%. So a 2% increase per year, salary increase per year, is not going to cut it. Next, we're going to look at why or how USF is flush with cash. Here we're looking at USF's educational and general education, also called ENG budget, and we're going to compare it with the carry forward. And then we also put in-unit faculty payroll. So we can see that total E&G is increasing over the years. Fiscal year 21, we had 722.3 million, which grew steadily to 970.5 million in fiscal year 25. Similarly, we saw increases, healthy increases in the beginning year carry forward of about 257 million in fiscal year 21 to about 358 million in fiscal year 25. In comparison, in-unit faculty payroll, and the in-unit means that you are covered by United Faculty of Florida. You are a faculty member who can join the United Faculty of Florida. So here we saw about $162 million in fiscal year 21, grew to $184 million in fiscal year 25. So here we saw about a 34% increase in those 5 years in total E&G, a 40% increase in those 5 years beginning year carry forward, but only a 14% increase in the same time period for faculty payroll. And we need to change that. So here is different types of graphs that are really driving home what's going on. So huge increases in E&G and carry forward, but very modest increases in payroll. And additional funding is not being spent on in-unit salaries. So here we have the percentage value in 2021 dollars, which is the vertical axis. And then we have the blue line is E&G. The orange curve is the mean salary of employees in the bargaining unit. And the green curve is the amount someone would have if their only salary changes were due to merit increases. Next, we're going to look at another item that has increased USF monies. As you might have heard, the state of Florida decertified several chapters of AFSCME, which is the union that protects state, county, and municipal employees. And one of the chapters that was decertified is at USF. USF took this opportunity to privatize 400 jobs and is estimated to save $320 million over the next 15 years. And we want to have our share of that. How much of a salary raise is needed? Faculty who would only merit raises during the life of the 2021 to 2024 CBA need a raise of 13.6% to return to the purchasing power in 2021. Let that sink in. Take that in combination with an inflation rate that is expected to be a minimum of 3.2% during the next years. That really tells you that the 2% increase, salary increase offered by USF is really not nearly enough. So we're asking for 5% for each of the next 3 years, which is a total of 15.76%. Is it realistic? Yes. Can the university afford to pay that? Yes. If we're going any higher, then we're probably not going to stay within reality. But what we need you to do is we need you to show your support because we're talking about your salaries here. So please come to the next bargaining session. And we already have a date, Friday, June 20th, 2025. And we will be announcing the place and time. So please come and join us. Thank you.